plan for today is first half an hour to 45 minutes, an hour a session, just to give you some idea about the level 2 program, how it looks like, how the content is like, how is it different from level 1, the preparation strategy, and is there, I think the most $1 million question, is there time enough for the exam to be given out in May, August, November, right? So of course May is out of question, it's a month away, so that's not something that you can look at. August, probably not. November, probably yes, right? That's how we look at it, because if I simply think about it, that how much time do you really need for prep? It's about 6 months. 6 months of dedicated prep and you can get level 2 done. As somebody's mentioned today in the morning, that level 2 book is a lot thinner than level 1. It is, right? The book is thinner, it is lesser content. The classes are also shorter at level 2 as compared to level 1. The content gets completed quicker as compared to level 1. That doesn't make it easier, but that definitely makes it shorter for sure. So level 2 is surely shorter, but the challenge at level 2 is the lack of familiarity to a lot of the content that you may have had earlier at level 1, because the level 1 content that most people look at is familiar from their college times. For example, economics is like a complete repetition, accounting or FSA is the initial part is a repetition. You know what income statement, balance sheet, cash flows are. I mean, you can answer questions even from your general understanding, and you don't have to sort of know the level 1 content to be able to answer it many times. So the issue that happens at level 2 is the lack of familiarity to the content. For that, the only solution is put in time. And it's not like many more months, it's many more hours within the months that you have, which is what is important, for which the only thing you have to do is prioritize. This exam needs to be a priority for you. It needs to be important for you. Saying that you don't have time simply means it's not important for you. Okay, it's as straightforward as that. You have time for what is important for you. So if you can prioritize it, if you can make it relevant for you, because this exam or any other exam, you do it for yourself. You're not doing it for me, you're not doing it for your family, you're not doing it for anybody else. You're doing it because you want to do it, you want to pursue a career in this, right? So make it important for you and know the reason why you're doing it, how important it is for you. I think if you answer that for yourself, it takes the time that it has to. I make a very simple statement for everybody. I say accuracy over speed. It doesn't help to do it quickly. The only way you're going to get through is to do it correctly, right? There is no answer, there's no point for finishing the content or the examination faster. It's only if you do it correct. So if it takes time, it takes time, doesn't matter. So let it take the time that it has to. I spoke to a student yesterday, although it was a level 1 candidate, but the candidate complained and said that, I'm unable to match up the pace and the content is going too fast, I'm unable to go through. I said the only way to do it is put in more time. You just have to make sure that you are staying consistent. Initially it takes a while to build the pace, but you catch up. The average time that it takes to cover the 1 round of content at level 1 or 2 is about 3 to 4 months. If you put in that 3 to 4 months, dedicated 3 to 5 hours a day, depending on how quickly you read, how quickly you understand, you can get it done. So if I were to summarize, the preparation strategy at level 2 is not very different from your preparation strategy at level 1. What worked at 1 works at level 2. Yes, if your strategy at level 1 was last 40 days, well, don't try that, okay? Because a lot of people do try that too, and it sometimes works because of the familiarity or the background that you might have at level 1. Don't take that risk here at level 2. At level 2, the risks are slightly higher, but the pass rates are good. The pass rates are about 40-45%. If you're lucky, the pass rates can go to like 59%, like it did in May last year. But it could be a little bad luck, like it went to 39% in November last year, right? So the pass rates can, I haven't added the last bar. The last bar is November, and that is 39%. So the pass rates are between 40 to 45 or so. But you know what? The reason why pass rates vary is because your performance varies. It's not that they try to say that, okay, we will make so many people pass or so less people pass. It's about your performance. You score above the passing line, you'll pass. And probably you know that the marking scheme or the result declaration methodology has changed. They've sort of changed how your results will look like, not how the results are graded, but how they look like. They've changed it. They've started giving you numbers. They've started giving you scaled numbers. In level 1, the numbers range from, I think, some 1100 to 1900. In level 2, it ranges from some like 21 to 29, and so on and so forth. And the passing line is about at something like 1600 or so. 1600, 2600, 3600 at level 1, 2, 3. So the point here is that if I were to calculate and check, it's about 65 to 70%. If you're scoring that much, you pass. To be on the safer side, 70%. To be on the safer side, 70 plus and you pass. That's the clear point. Nobody can even dare to fail you in case you score a 70 plus. I mean, it's impossible for that to happen. The pass line has never gone above 70. That's for sure. One challenge at level 2 is that there are only 88 questions. Only 88. 44 questions in the morning and 44 questions in the second half. Having a shorter examination I wouldn't like it. I mean, personally, when I gave level 2, I had 120 questions with 4 choices for every question. Things were different when I gave the exam many years ago. I shouldn't even say which year. But yes, the formats for you are now 88 questions with 3 choices. The point is, each question is more than 1%. The weightage goes up significantly, which means that the number of mistakes you can make and then pass just reduces significantly. What that means is that selective study does not work. Because if you have a case study coming in from a chapter which you felt you did not understand, or you ignored, or you removed, or you said, oh, I don't like it, or you gave less time to it, and you get 4 questions from that chapter, well, that's a disaster. Reason being, because each question is more than 1%, and if those 4 questions are from a topic which you don't like or you haven't read, automatically 6 to 7% goes there away, right? So what doesn't work is selective study. I say this very simply, very straightforward. The way to pass the level 2 exam is you need to know a little of everything. Of course, in-depth is great, but it's a multiple choice paper. With multiple choice papers, the good thing is that the correct answer is in front of you. And with the correct answer in front of you, you can always arrive at the correct answer by looking at the choices as well. So, do not leave a chapter. Do not say that this chapter I'm not going to do, or I don't like it, I don't think I want to read this chapter. That strategy surely does not work. Okay? So it is supposed to be a comprehensive prep across all 10 subject areas. What really helps is the fact that one subject you've already done. And that's ethics. Because ethics, the content of ethics at level 2 is identical to the content at level 1. Same 7 standards without GIPS. So you have exactly the same 7 standards. Yes, there is a new standard, by the way, that's been added. We'll talk about that when we get there. But barring that, the entire content remains the same. That makes life simple because that chapter, the subject is about 10 to 15%. That means around 8 to 12 questions approximately, which is a lot. 10 to 15% is about 8 to 12 questions, which means around 3 case studies approximately, 2 to 3 case studies. Which makes it good because ethics can be an area, if you're doing well on it, you can score well and you can pass. And I've seen many candidates who have scored well in ethics and not very well in the others, and they pass. So that's a subject that if you can put in time with, you do well. And my strategy on ethics is very straight. I repeat that around 2 months before the examination, you pick up that book and you read it cover to cover every day, 30 to 40 minutes. Every day. Yes, irrespective of which subject you're preparing, irrespective of what topic you're looking at, you need to look at that chapter every single day. Keep it like the last topic that you read before bed, instead of scrolling on the phone like most of us do before we go off. Just use that. Right? That usually will put you to bed better as compared to the phone, right? And secondly, you would have read something at least 5 pages, 10 pages, 7 pages, a little bit every day. That builds a mindset. It gives you the understanding of the case studies, the examples, and that's what is tested. Remember, questions in ethics come directly from the CFA book. Most of the examples and the questions are usually picked up from the book itself. If you've read them, if you've understood them, chances of getting it correct increases significantly. So that's one. There are a few subjects at level 2 which are more challenging than others. Namely, subjects like fixed income, derivatives. Those are technical. They will be mathematical. They will be a little more challenging, especially because these are subjects which a lot of people haven't sort of had the background in at level 1 or previously otherwise. So it could be that these subjects might cause challenge to you. Fixed income is a big one. Derivatives are relatively shorter though. FSA, is it tough? Did you find it tough?
Tougher than the others, but not tough as compared to fixed income.
Okay. FSA is, I mean, I'll tell you, as a trainer, I initially felt that FSA is not vast. No, FSA at level 2 is not vast. FSA at level 2 is primarily 3 chapters, out of which 1 chapter is a very short chapter, the multinational operations. The only chapter which can, I feel, cause a little bit of a challenge is pensions and the stock options. That's a chapter which can cause a little bit of a challenge. The intercorporate investments, the equity method and the acquisition method are relatively quite straightforward. If you practice enough questions, which we do in the class, it's relatively easy to understand. Yes, after the 3 chapters, a section of how the banks and the financial companies are different, the part on the financial reporting quality, that part probably is a little theoretical. But barring that, FSA I personally feel is not one of the more challenging topics. That's my personal opinion. But yes, if you feel so, fair enough. Some candidates might say quant is a little challenging. Some candidates may say that. Quant only is hypothesis testing and regression analysis. So whatever, I'm sure hypothesis testing is something that most candidates at level 1 found it not a very convenient chapter to look at. I understand that, but a lot of level 1 hypothesis is not what you do at level 2. What you do at level 2 is regression analysis and simply understanding when to reject and when not to reject the null hypothesis. If you recognize that, it's not difficult from there on. Corporate issuers is the easier section. That's probably the easiest of the entire subjects. Equity is also very easy. It's also a very simple, easy chapter subject. Alternatives is theoretical, like at level 1. Portfolio management, a couple of chapters can cause a little bit of a challenge. Barring that, it's okay. Nothing left. That's it. So if you see the challenging subjects, that's fixed income, derivatives, portfolio, maybe quant, maybe FSA, depending on your background. Yes. One thing that is important at level 2 is you have a total of, here you have, if you see the format of the examination, you will have a total of 22 caselets. 22 caselets come in. 22 caselets comprising of 4 questions each. And the examination is approximately 2 hours, 12 minutes. You have 3 minutes per question. That's plenty of time to go through and to answer the questions. So time is usually not a consideration. You've answered the questions at level 1 with half the time and got through it. So that's not an issue. But the thing is that you will have case study format questions. It will be a split screen on your level 2. So you will have half the screen on your left hand side as the case study, half the screen on the right hand side as a question. So it's usually a split screen where you have case study and a question. Okay? Case study is not more than about 1.5 pages, and within that 1.5 pages or so you have maybe 1 box of data or 2 boxes of data with a little bit of text, maybe with a few statements of the candidates in terms of or the people saying one thing or the other, and then questions asking you on the accuracy of those statements. Unlike at level 1, where there was clear demarcation of which subjects come in the first half and which subjects come in the second half, at level 2 there is no demarcation. You could have the first case study coming in from equity, the second from fixed income, the third from alternatives, the fourth from ethics, fifth from quant, and so on and so forth. There is no right order. So unlike at level 1 where you had 5 subjects in the first half, second 5 subjects in the second half, that's not the way it is tested at level 2. You can have the case studies being tested quite randomly. But at level 2, the case studies will be from a specific subject only, which means that one case study will have questions only from one subject. It will not be interconnected. So they will not have a case study which is a mixture of corporate issuers and equity. No, that will not happen. And they will clearly label the case study and say that this case study is from this subject. Okay, so you know that which subject is being tested. Alright? So that's the format of the examination. And I think the pass line, if you can see, is completely flat at about 45% for the last about 2 decades. Right? So of course there is variation, plus minus a little bit here and there, but 45% is the pass rate that you can literally think of, which is pretty good. You need to be in the first and the top half of the candidates. It's not a bad pass rate to really have. And frankly speaking, if you just study good enough, you're okay. You know why? Because out of the 100 candidates who prepare and who sit for the exam, from the 100 candidates who sit for the examination, 20% have just landed up without really having studied much. So that means if you've just studied well enough, you've outdone 20-25% right away. So a lot of candidates don't get the time. I'll tell you what, there's a change in the profile of the candidates by the time you get to level 2. At level 1, most of the candidates who we are teaching now are graduates, or not even graduates, they're in their second years. And sometimes we've had candidates in their first year as well now. I think we've had our youngest candidate, 17-year-old, wanting to look at giving level 1, right? Starting out level 1 right after class 12. So the change that happens with level 2 candidates is that a lot of you are already graduates, and most of you are even starting to work. Things that happen is that at level 2, time that you have on your hand changes, because you have to juggle between new responsibilities. You have work, you have some other commitments happening in your life, which cause challenge to put in time and priority. That's the first thing I spoke about today. I said if you want to pass this exam, you need to make it a priority. Making it a priority means that a lot of other things will go down the list. You need to be conscious of that, and those things that may go down the list could be work, could be family, could be relationships, could be other aspects that will cause a bit of challenge. Make everybody around you aware of that, right? The expectations need to be clear, because those will cause challenge and strain and make you feel a little anxious, because of course you're targeting something which is unsure. Level 2 pass exam is not sure of, but you have other things which are not you are not being able to put in time to, right? And of course if you don't put time to something, it doesn't work for very well for some time at least. But then be aware of it. You'll have to balance that over the next few months, and also be aware that targeting the exam in November is also always a little challenging, because you have all the festivities coming up. You have Diwali, you have all the, everything around the same period. So you find everybody else around you having a good time, and you're with your books. You're like, I don't want to do this, right? This is the worst time that you're looking at it. But then, well, you know that this is how the age from the early 20s to the mid 20s is competitive examinations. Everybody goes through the same cycle, a few years of really tough times which are there. But they lay the foundation for you. They lay the foundation for your career for the next many, many years to come in. So be aware that this is investment. Okay? This is investment in yourself. It's investment for your career. It's investment for the very long term. It works out. It settles down very soon thereafter. So that's my introduction to the level 2 content for you. Any questions that you have? And if you guys have a question online, you can just type out your question or unmute yourself. Just raise your hand, I'll call out your name, and you can just ask your questions. I'd be more than happy to hear you out and or read out your query and answer your questions. So feel free to ask your questions, and then we can go about doing things. Yes? And no question at all. Really? You're all sorted, is it? Okay. I have a question. What content? Which books to look at? Yes, should we look at the Swedger books? Should we look at the CFA books? What material should I read in order to be passing the level 2 exam? Yes, because that's a common question. Nobody's asking that. So, well, you know my answer. So a lot of you here who have been here at level 1 with us, my answer to that is that choose the material based on your time and the background. If you've been comfortable with the topic in the class, if you've been comfortable with the topic and understood the broad material, using the Kaplan-Swedger material is not bad. It's perfectly fine. It's okay to use the Kaplan-Swedger material, but do be aware that when we summarize content, when anybody summarizes content, they leave the story out of it. They leave the finer nuances of the content, and those can cause a little challenge on the material, because you don't feel confident about the material. You've covered it, but it never gives you that satisfaction that you've covered it. Bas, is it good enough to pass the exam? Yes, it is good enough to pass the exam. But is it good enough to make you feel really confident about the content? Maybe not. So you don't know the story. But yes, if you have the time and if you feel that, okay, this subject and this topic really I want to understand it in depth really well, then you know that the CFA book is the best way to go through. But yes, the longer route is always a little more time consuming. Okay? So be aware and plan. You can always switch from one to the other depending on how it's shaping up. One good strategy that I have accepted for most candidates is that go through the Kaplan-Swedger, get the content covered once. That gives you the sense of confidence that yes, I've taken 2.5, 3 months, I've covered it once. Then you use the CFA books to brush through and see if I have covered everything. Go through the end of chapter summary, go through the examples and the questions at the end of the book to see if I have covered most of the material. You will find things to be slightly differently covered. One major difference between the two books that you will genuinely find, questions in the Swedger book test your memory. Okay? Questions in the Treasure book test your memory. Questions in the CFA book test your understanding. There is a difference in the quality of the questions in these two books. Treasure books give you a sense of false confidence that, oh, you know it because you have read the content, you attempted the question, it tested your memory. It didn't test your understanding. Because what are memory-based questions? What are understanding-based questions? Memory-based questions would be that they will ask you that, okay, what is the, let's say they will ask you a question which does not test your understanding or logical thought process. It just tests you whether you remember a certain topic or a line. And generally, remembrance is easier, understanding is taking one step further, where you have to think through the logic or the concept. CFA books always make you think. And that's how the questions come on the exam. So, while it's okay to read this Treasure book, going through it, attempting questions, the first round is okay. But what is very important is that remember the CFA books, the questions there, the quality is far superior. Make sure to do them at least once before the exam, fully, completely, because otherwise you will find the examination to be of a different level, which will be a surprise. So it's good not to be surprised. It's good to be ensuring that you are aware that the level of questions are going to be slightly higher than what you get tested in the Treasure book. So do your questions from the CFA book, look at the end of chapter summary, look at the examples and cover that. This combination of preparation between the two usually is a good compromise. Yes, why I say the word compromise is because the ideal way is to read the CFA book. But I recognize and understand that that is very time consuming and a lot of candidates find that very, very difficult. Even when I read the CFA book after, every year that we have to read it, it still takes time because of course reading through every line, understanding and recognizing what it means takes a lot of effort. However, if you want to find a good compromise, as I said, reading the Treasure books and going through the classes is good enough, but you cannot leave the examples and the end of chapter questions of the CFA book. Once you've completed that, the next round of preparation requires you to look at the questions on the CFA website. CFA website questions are quite often a repetition of the questions from the book. It's okay, because doing those questions from the website the second time around, it tests whether you really understood and you remember the concept that you had covered. Remember that the method to pass the exam at level 1, 2, 3 is to consistently identify your problem areas. See, it is easier to push a subject where your scores are less than 60 to above 60, 65. It's harder to put a subject which you're scoring, let's say 70 to an 80, 85. So, identify subjects that you are not scoring well in. Identify within the subject. There are certain chapters, sometimes certain topic areas where you are not good at. And remember, there are only 4 questions sometimes from a certain subject. 4 questions mean that the topic, that one question will be 25% weightage. Recognize that, right? If there are 4 questions, let's say for example, corporate issuers has 5 to 10%. What is 5%? 4 questions. 4 questions mean each question is 25% weightage for that subject. So suddenly you get one topic wrong, it's like a 25% down on that subject because they give you scores per subject, right? So recognizing small things, each word will be important, and that recognizing, that sort of clarity comes in only in the second or the third run through. The first run through is, remember, only basic understanding. The second run through helps you greater clarity. The third run through helps you with recallability also. So I was talking to a candidate just here itself in the morning. The guy said that I've done the first run through, I don't recall anything. I'm saying that's very normal. The first run through is not going to give you recall. The first run through is going to give you the confidence that yes, I've covered the material. The second run through, a bit of more understanding. Third run through, recallability will start coming in. So have the expectations in your mind clear that this is going to take time. 3 months, 1.5 months, 1 month is the time that it takes for each run through. 3, 1.5, 1. And then 30 to 40 days with mocks. That's how the prep is. We have entire timeline very clear, provided you put in consistent time. Last point that comes to my mind is this entire game or this entire program or the entire exam here, because it's a long drawn process of around 6-7 months, there will be periods where you will have doubts. There will be periods where you're going to say, why am I doing this to myself? What the hell am I doing? I've been doing this for a month and I can't get anything. I can't remember anything. I am unable to even, recall the chapter that I just covered 2 weeks ago. What do you do in that period? You put your head down and you go on. You don't question yourself. Remember that it's like a long trek. Have you ever gone a long trek? Climbed a mountain? Or have you taken a long walk? There are periods in the middle where I cannot see the end of this. It just feels it's not finishing. What do you do at that time? You just put your head down, say Jai Mata Di, and go on, right? You don't sort of question yourself at that time. You're like, okay, doesn't matter, it's okay, right? That mental game is very important because a lot of people give up. There's a lot of dropout. If you drop out, it doesn't work. Recognize one thing, okay? Just show up for the exam. So I have a friend and many students as well, who called me a few days before the examination and they've said that, okay, we are unable to do this. I'm getting very anxious. I haven't prepared as well as I should have or could have. I should have put in more time, more effort, and I don't think I'll pass. I convinced them, just show up. Because not showing up, the result is sure. Showing up, at least you get the experience of it. So be aware that you're showing up for the exam. You're not going to defer. You're not going to not show up. Okay? Those are options you're not going to take. No deferment unless there is a massive issue, something that really classifies as one of those issues that the CFA ensured, life-threatening issues. Right? Truly life-threatening issues. If that happens, okay, fair enough. But barring those, you're not going to defer. Okay? Take a pledge for that for yourself. Second is you're going to show up for the exam. Now, if you do these two, you will put in the time as and when you can. There will be good days, there will be bad days. There will be days when you can put in the effort, there will be days where you sit down with the book and your head is somewhere else. The productivity will be zero that day. It's okay. It's okay. You're human. Recognize that. So, put in the time and don't judge yourself in very short periods. If that is happening, that you are feeling very anxious with your prep, the solution to that is set very short-term targets. Like half an hour, 40 minutes, 30 minutes. That this much I want to cover in this 30 minutes. That's it. Don't set yourself targets of months and weeks and days. 30 minutes, 5 pages. That's it. Set short-term and achievable targets. That's an easy way to start building confidence back again. And not even reading, watch video. Do something which you don't have to actively do, passively. Video will run irrespective. Watch the video. Yes, that builds a bit of confidence that yes, I am doing something. I'm covering the material. I'm going ahead with the content. Because a lot of the mental game that you have to play here gives you the confidence. You all are capable. You all reach level 1, so you can get through level 2 as well. It's not rocket science. But it's a matter of building that confidence and keeping yourself calm. Yes? See, as I say this again and again, that the entire game is neither to get too ahead of yourself or not, and start not looking at back behind and say, oh, by this time I had covered level 1 twice already. By this time, my level 1 prep was so great, I had covered everything and I had already started practicing questions and I knew half the material. That's one thought that comes to everybody at level 2, that oh, by this time I had covered everything. Unless you have documented evidence of your own prep, don't trust yourself. You don't know your timelines. You don't know your timelines, I can say that for sure today itself, because most people don't know how they felt on a specific day of the 6 months ago. What they remember is a summary of their feelings. And generally you remember closer to the exam date, this is how I felt. Because that's when you were actively preparing.
You will remember the good part.
You remember the good part, you don't remember the tough time of that. So don't trust yourself when this feeling comes in. Okay? In a nutshell, the basis of your winning and losing is going to be how you talk to yourself and how your 6 inches between the 2 ears decides to talk to yourself. Okay? That dialogue is going to be a lot of the decision making in terms of how it works. Questions, anything that comes to your mind?
So what I have experienced level 2 is basically that, because like you said that it is more memory based, but like if you have a basic understanding, even the basic understanding, you can even attempt the difficulty level questions of CFA or total easily. So like, but there are some questions which are expert difficulty, they test your memory also.
That's okay. Will you get like a 75-80% in the first run through? No. Chances are tough. The idea is not to score very well right away. The idea is of doing questions and recognizing where your problem area is. Find out where the scores are not coming in and work through that. That's the idea.
There are few subjects or few topics we can take.
And each mock test will highlight a different area. Each mock test will highlight a different area.
Also, like in first mock, there were some subjects which were low, but in next one it was up, but others were down.
Correct. So each mock test will highlight it different, because each mock test will test you in different areas of the same subject. And you will make silly mistakes. You will make errors of memory. You will make errors of reading the question. Those errors will happen. So be aware that unless you have practiced enough and have made yourself aware of those smaller issues, those issues will happen. So keep time for that. Yes?
If we have 6 months of time, then how many hours should we every day?
Start with targeting 2 to 3 hours. Build this habit of prep. As I said, make it a priority and start with few hours and build it up as its requirement comes in. So 2 to 3 hours you start with, and then don't look at the clock.
Because I personally felt 300 hours are never enough, like the CFA should recommend.
The 300 hours, I don't know who is it for, right? I don't know how they calculate those 300 hours, but it's productive 300 hours. My way of preparation is, how can you look at the clock and prepare? How can you prepare by the clock? If I'm sitting with a book and I'm getting nothing out of it, and I've spent 3 hours, how has it helped? The point is, everybody has a different pace of prep. So, while it helps to put in time and say 3 hours a day, but you start with targeting time, but then you start looking at productivity after that. Sometimes when you are productive, a couple of hours a day is also okay. When you are not productive, 6 hours also will not be enough. So initially target time, but then start looking at covering chapters, covering material, covering content. Let that be the target instead of coming with timelines of saying, oh, I've done the hours, but it's not working. So time is not the target, coverage is the target.
Also, I felt regarding the material that Schweizer is very easy to read, and if you read it, if you read from the source material of CFA, you will. I feel that after few months you will definitely forget whatever you read because the content is so well. Rather than that, mastering the small content that is in the Schwager itself and practicing the questions in Porter and the blue boxes from the CFA and mastering the from multiple times is way better than reading the.
That's usually more exam-oriented prep. Works. It works very well because that is an exam-oriented way of preparing. So if that's how you want to go ahead, as I said, it's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Go ahead. Schwager is a good summary. They have done well for all subjects except for ethics. Don't compromise on that. Rest everything else you read there.
Yes, ethics also I read from CFA source material, but every other subject I read from Schwager itself.
Fair enough. Do that for level 2 also. No problems. At level 2, just make sure that once you've read through the book, do the questions and the examples of the CFA book. Fair enough. That, as I said, is a good compromise to have a good way of balancing your prep. Fair enough. Yes, yes.
So the topics that you will be studying in level 2 are carried forward from level 1 topics, or it is going to be completely different?
There will be relationship to level 1. The content does have linkages to level 1 material. What subjects are linked? Let me give you an idea. There is a bit of overlap at level 1 with quant. Bit of overlap, especially the hypothesis testing. You need to know how to reject, not to reject null. And we'll discuss that here. Barring that, most of it is regression analysis. We'll cover that with you. Economics, no linkage. FSA, you need to know your basic of counts. Otherwise, no linkage. Corporate issuers, there are linkages with dividends and share repurchase. Yes? The Modigliani-Miller theories. Couple of the overlaps are there. Equity, dividend discount model is complete repeated again. Yes? Fixed income, you will have to know the basics of all your terminologies. Yes, you need to know what is YTM, spot rates, forward rates, yield curve. Unless you know the basic terminology, it's not going to work. We have covered at level 1. That is the same with derivatives also. At derivatives at level 2, it's all valuation of derivatives. So unless you know what is a forward or a future or an option or a swap, you don't know how to value it. So level 2 derivatives is all mathematical. So you need to know the basics. So what we do at level 2 is wherever the topic requires coverage of level 1, we put in time for that topic at level 1 coverage, revision. In the class, we put in about maybe 15 to 20 minutes of revising that topic from level 1 and then covering it. And if there is a query, we answer that. The good part at level 2 is because we have relatively smaller batches, we are able to answer queries as we go along. So if you have a challenge on the topic and say this topic I'm not clear with or it's not making sense, we are okay to go with the topic from a slightly more basic perspective and explain that topic from the level 1. But does it mean that you need to open the level 1 book? Your CFA level 1 book? The answer to that is no. Do not put in the time to open your level 1 material. That takes away too much time of you simply looking up what is happening from there. That is a waste of time. Don't do that. If you have a query which is not from level 1, look either online or ask me. Don't look at the book because that's a wild goose chase. You will look for a lot of things, you'll find a lot of things which were not relevant, or rather you will end up reading things which were not needed for level 2 and then you'll waste time for it. So don't open the level 1 book, okay, unless you know precisely where to look at. Okay.
So what about the questions in exam? Is it moderate?
So are the questions on the exam moderate, tough? How are they at level 1? Moderate. So how did you feel that they were moderate? Had you practiced enough before that?
No, so basically the CFA website, they have these questions in easy, moderate. So easy, moderate, I was able to do well in it on the understanding basis. But tough, it required little bit effort.
Yes.
And expert, that was more challenging.
Right.
So I want to know what about in level 2?
Same.
Same.
Exam is never tough. Exam is a little on the easier side as compared to what you end up preparing for. So we end up preparing you for a lot tougher examination, but what comes on the exam actually is a lot more simpler, right? Again, you should have practiced. If you have practiced and if you have read through the content, then it's not difficult. But if you have read it once and then you have gone for it, then of course it's difficult. Right?
Because one subject is like 4 questions only, 5 to 10%.
Correct. So it's not difficult provided you've put in the time. If you have put in the time and if you work through the material, then it's not tough. So it's being tough or easy is a little relative game, I feel. Yeah.
So in level 1, I have not given a single mock test, sir, because I thought that if I have given the mock test, if I score low, then I may feel overwhelmed and I might not end up attending the exam. But to my surprise, I scored very well in my level 1 exam despite not giving the mock exam. But I intend to not do the same for level 2.
Do you feel that was a good thing that you did, or that was not good thing you did?
It was not good thing
So then, what should you do at level 2?
to practice.
How will you make sure you practice? Because this feeling will come back again. So how will you overcome that feeling? Because this is not something which is specific to you. All of us don't want that confidence or feeling to go down that time, because we feel that if our sense of confidence decreases that time, we will suddenly feel that, oh, we can't do it. The first thing is recognizing that you're feeling high at the moment or feeling good at the moment is a false sense of confidence. The score will come a little low. So be aware that it's okay. It is a manner of finding out where are your problem areas. And if you don't do the mock test, you will be surprised on the exam day. Now, do you want to be surprised on the exam day result, or do you want to be surprised now? The choice is yours. That choice, surprise element, you decide. Okay? So it's better to be surprised before than later. So let's get the surprise happen.
Even I also procrastinated a lot before.
We all do that. We don't want to do the mock. We don't want to face the reality check. So we keep deferring it till we cannot. So how do you do this? So what I used to do was, I used to set a date. On my calendar, I used to put a date and say, this is my date of the examination, mock test, irrespective of my preparation date. How my preparation was, mock has to be done. Because your exam cannot be deferred. Your exam day cannot move ahead. How can your mock test move ahead? So, irrespective, sit and do that mock.
So I use this strategy in level 1. Like, it is like a real exam simulation. Like, you prepare for the real exam, and the score is really good if you like prepare by heart. If you prepare for that, it is like you score good on the mock test also.
So what is the strategy?
Your strategy only. Like set a date.
Set a date. You have to set a date. You put the date and say, जो भी हो जाए, इस दिन mock देना है. क्योंकि given a choice, आप करना चाहते हो? नहीं करना चाहते हो. क्यों करना चाहोगे? क्यों अपने sense of confidence को गिराना चाहोगे? कोई नहीं करना चाहता. तो वो डेट फिक्स करके कहना है कि ये आगे मूव नहीं कर सकती. और वो पेपर सेट है, पेपर वहां पे रखा हुआ है. ठीक है, आपने एक पेपर डिसाइड कर लिया, ये पेपर है और वो रखा हुआ है. अब वो उस दिन अटेम्प्ट करना है. सो अब जब वो दिन आएगा, आपने टाइम फिट किया, जैसे एडमिट कार्ड आपका आता है, एग्जाम में आया, आप बैठे, एग्जाम दिया, कर लिया. दैट इज हाउ यू शुड डू इट. यू कैन नॉट हैव फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी विद दैट.
I gave mocks, but I gave mocks like one half one day and second half other day. I didn't do it.
उससे स्कोर बढ़ जाता है.
Exactly, and उससे it's like because you're only doing 2 hours, right? Instead of 4 or 4.5. So it's like, but on the exam day, it was after the lunch break, after the first session, I physically found it difficult to answer.
So you have to then simulate the 4.5 hours. Yes. You have to simulate the entire experience of 4.5 hours of sitting there and saying I have to do it, because the point is, as you said, after the second half, the productivity drops, right? So you have to simulate it a couple of times, and it's not a lot of times that you have to simulate this. A few times you simulate it and your body gets used to it, right? So it's not a lot of times, 2-3 times. That is last few days. Last 2 weeks you do that. 2-3 times and your body acclimatizes to it. But before that, if you want to still do this, because see, focus initially should be accuracy. This adapting to the exam pattern is usually to be done in the last 2 weeks. Okay?
So with level 2 में तो ऐसा कर नहीं सकते ना कि एक मौका आते हैं कर दें.
नहीं कर सकते हो.
So level में 5 सब्जेक्ट पता है 5 सब्जेक्ट.
ठीक है, आपने तब भी अपने 44 क्वेश्चंस करके चेक कर लिया क्या स्कोर आ रहा है, तो आइडिया तो लग जाता है ना. तो उसमें से कुछ सब्जेक्ट्स होंगे जो टेस्ट ही नहीं हुए, वो भी हो सकता है, क्योंकि एक हाफ में टेस्ट नहीं हुए सब्जेक्ट्स. कॉम्पिटिशन हो रहा है, एक ही केस स्टडी आनी है तो एक सुबह आई नहीं, क्वांट आया ही नहीं. वो देखो ऐसे पता तो है, हमें मालूम है क्या सही है क्या नहीं है, और इट्स अ मैटर ऑफ के, मैंने कहा ना कि इट्स नॉट अ मैटर ऑफ के हमें पता नहीं है, पता सब कुछ है. वी आर अवेयर के क्या ठीक है क्या नहीं है. इट्स अ मैटर ऑफ डीलिंग विद आवर इश्यूज, है ना. एक और चीज जो मैंने आपको एडवाइस की है, यूजिंग द रेड येलो ग्रीन टेक्निक, जो चीज आपके CFA वेबसाइट में भी है, अबाउट द लेवल ऑफ कॉन्फिडेंस दैट यू हैव व्हेन यू आर मार्किंग अ क्वेश्चन. आई कॉल इट द रेड येलो ग्रीन टेक्निक. उसमें क्या होता है, जब आप मॉक टेस्ट में कोई क्वेश्चन मार्क कर रहे हैं तो आपको ये मार्क करना है कि क्या मैं इस ऑप्शन, इस आंसर पे कॉन्फिडेंट हूं, गेस कर रहा हूं, या बिल्कुल भी कोई आइडिया नहीं है. रेड, मुझे कोई आइडिया नहीं है, बिल्कुल तुक्का है. येलो, मैंने एक ऑप्शन एलिमिनेट कर दिया है बट 2 में कंफ्यूजन है. ग्रीन, मैं मोर देन 70-80% श्योर हूं, 90% श्योर हूं कि आंसर ये है. इस टेक्निक से आपका स्कोर बहुत बढ़ता है, क्योंकि जनरली क्या होता है कि कैंडिडेट सिर्फ उन क्वेश्चंस पे वापस जाते हैं जो क्वेश्चंस गलत हुए, बट वो जो ऐसे क्वेश्चंस है जिनको आपने तुक्का मारा था और सही हो गए, उनका क्या, जो रेड सही हो गए, मल्टीपल चॉइस है, तो रेड का फिर से वापस सही होने का चांस क्या है, बहुत कम. तो आपको क्या करना है, अगर आपने इन क्वेश्चंस को रेड मार्क किया हुआ है पहले, तो चाहे वो सही हो या गलत हो, आपको वो करना पड़ेगा, है ना. तो मार्किंग जो आपने रेड की है, दोज आर क्वेश्चंस यू हैव टू डू. येलो, यू अगेन हैव टू डू. ग्रीन, जो सही हो गए हैं, उनको आप कह सकते हैं ठीक है, नहीं करना है. तो मॉक टेस्ट करने में 4 घंटे लगेंगे, बट मॉक टेस्ट को एनालाइज करने में 1 दिन लगता है. तो ये टाइम भी आपको प्रोविजन करना है कि मॉक टेस्ट को एनालाइज करने में बहुत टाइम लगता है, क्योंकि मॉक टेस्ट को एनालाइज करने में क्या करना पड़ता है, बुक खोलनी पड़ती है, पढ़ना पड़ता है कि यार ये कहां था. उसमें एक स्ट्रैटेजी है, आई विल गिव यू वन टेक्निक. व्हेन कैंडिडेट्स आस्क मी अ क्वेरी एंड समटाइम्स आई कांट रिकॉल द टॉपिक, आई ओपन द PDF एंड आई सर्च. ऐसे निकलता है कॉन्सेप्ट. यू सर्च द कीवर्ड, you find out कि कहां पे ये लिखा है. In a 1 second you find out the paragraph and you find out कि क्या पढ़ना है. You read and you know. So it doesn't take too long, provided कि आपको पता है कि इस टॉपिक का कीवर्ड क्या था. वो 2-3 जगह पे होता है, आपने पढ़ा, आपको समझ में आ गया कि ये इशू है, that's it. That's the best strategy I have found, where you can read the topic for that specific section quickly. ठीक है?
One more thing that I found helpful is actually when you solve the questions in the portal, there is a complete explanation of all the 3 options. That actually helps you.
Very important. आपने बहुत बढ़िया बात करी है. देखें, हर क्वेश्चन का एक्सप्लेनेशन पढ़ना जरूरी है, चाहे आपका आंसर सही था या गलत था. इससे क्या होता है कि आपको समझ में आता है कि जो आपने क्वेश्चंस किए हैं उनमें जो गलत वाले ऑप्शंस हैं वो गलत क्यों हैं, उसका लॉजिक क्या है, ये समझना, उससे आपका स्कोर बहुत बढ़ता है. तो आंसर कौन सा सही है ये मार्क करना जनरली आसान होता है, बट बाकी दोनों ऑप्शंस गलत क्यों हैं, अगर आप ये पढ़ेंगे, एक्सप्लेनेशंस पढ़ेंगे, उससे अच्छा रहता है. तो बेसिकली व्हाट इज द क्रक्स ऑफ ऑल ऑफ दिस? क्रक्स ऑफ ऑल ऑफ दिस इज पुट इन टाइम एंड कंप्लीट प्रेप. डोंट बी इन अ हरी टू प्रिपेयर, डोंट बी इन अ हरी टू अटेम्प्ट मोर क्वेश्चंस. ट्राई टू हैव अ कंप्लीट प्रेप. जो भी करें अच्छे से करें, जितना करें अच्छे से करें, और धीरे धीरे करते रहें. सो स्लो एंड स्टडी विंस द गेम. यस, इट इज नॉट समथिंग अबाउट ट्राइंग टू डू इट वेरी फास्ट. आपके पास 6-7 महीने का टाइम है, वो बहुत है, काफी है. इसमें कुछ दिन ऐसा मैंने कहा कुछ दिन अच्छे भी होंगे, कुछ खराब भी होंगे, बीमार भी पड़ेंगे, कुछ फेस्टिविटीज भी आएंगी, बहुत सारा कुछ होगा। उसके बावजूद भी प्रेप में अगर आप रेगुलरली लगे रहें तो हो जाता है। इट इज नॉट very difficult. People who have said that level 2 is the hardest, they do not know about level 2. It is not the hardest, it is not that difficult. Yes, the content is shorter, yes, the content is, I won't say easier, but the content is definitely little more rigorous in certain areas. Unfamiliar than level 1. That's it. So
level 1 is too much vast, sir. I mean,
level 1 is very vast. Level 1 खत्म ही नहीं होता है.
yeah.
That is true. That is one of my complaints with the CFA Institute forever कि level 1 खत्म ही नहीं होता. In fact, I've been asking the CFA Institute every single year कि please shift content from 1 to 2 and 3. वो 2 में 1 में डाल रहे हैं. Yes, that's true. Which has
spent reading again and again the same material again and again. I never focused on practicing it because I never felt confident enough. I mean, whatever I was reading, I was just forgetting this other day.
तो लेवल 1 में खत्म नहीं होता मटीरियल, दैट्स ट्रू. पर ठीक है, जो है सो है. आपके लिए जो अच्छा एक और लास्ट चीज, अगर आप किसी चैलेंज से फेस कर रहे हैं, याद रखिएगा कि बाकी भी वही चैलेंज फेस कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि द अरीना इज द सेम, the material is the same, the exam is the same, the content is the same, सारा कुछ सेम है. तो अगर आप चैलेंज फेस कर रहे हैं, ऐसा हो नहीं सकता कि कोई और चैलेंज वो फेस नहीं कर रहा. दूसरों का भी उतना ही चैलेंज है और क्या पता और ज्यादा है. सो डोंट कंपेयर योर सेल्फ, फोकस ऑन योर प्रेप. जस्ट रिमेंबर, कुछ कंट्रोलेबल्स होते हैं, कुछ नॉन कंट्रोलेबल्स होते हैं. नॉन कंट्रोलेबल्स में होते हैं कि एग्जाम में क्या आएगा, कौन सा टॉपिक इंपॉर्टेंट है, कौन सा इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है, मटेरियल कैसा है, एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा. कंट्रोलेबल्स जो है कि आपका प्रेपरेशन कैसा है, आप कितना टाइम दे रहे हैं. तो इफ यू कैन फोकस ऑन द कंट्रोलेबल्स, नॉन कंट्रोलेबल्स टेक केयर ऑफ देमसेल्व्स. ओके, ऑल ऑफ व्हाट आई हैव सेड इज इजियर सेड देन डन. So it's a matter of now slowly testing and going yourself, धीरे करते रहिए. Right?
This is the last question.
जी.
How to approach portfolio management, because in level 3 there is complete specialization in portfolio management. So from level 3 point of view, how do you approach that?
Level 3 में 3 स्पेशलाइजेशन है हम.
Yeah.
अब तो आप चूज कर सकते हैं. पोर्टफोलियो मैनेजमेंट एक है, प्राइवेट वेल्थ है एंड प्राइवेट मार्केट्स हैं. तो लेवल 3 का बाद में देखेंगे. ठीक है, अभी आप लेवल 2 करिए. जो सबसे सामने पहले वो कवर करते हैं. लेवल 3 का पोर्टफोलियो मैनेजमेंट आपको लग रहा है इससे रिलेटेड है, कोई रिलेशनशिप नहीं है. लेवल 3 का पोर्टफोलियो मैनेजमेंट यहाँ के पोर्टफोलियो मैनेजमेंट से रिलेटेड नहीं है, मतलब उससे ज्यादा कनेक्शन नहीं है. होगा तो कर लेंगे. लेवल 1 प्रिपेयर करते टाइम लेवल 2 के बारे में सोचा था नहीं ना, तो फिर लेवल 3 के बारे में क्यों सोचना है, छोड़ दीजिए. क्रॉस द ब्रिज व्हेन इट कम्स. अभी के लिए अभी का चैलेंज. ठीक है, अभी का टॉपिक अभी के सामने करना है, बहुत दूर का सोचना ही नहीं है. ठीक है, लेवल 3 में इससे ज्यादा, इससे कम कंटेंट है. आप लेवल 3 में आएंगे तो उसमें फिर डिफरेंट चैलेंज बताएंगे आपको.
Because I have a friend who's giving it and he showed me the stuff and it's like fully theoretical except like 1 or 2 questions.
Forget about it.
But it's
Can you change that?
No, but it's a doubt.
Is it?
It's a doubt.
Does it matter right now? No, it doesn't matter right now. So what is level 3 like? How is the content like? How is the? It will come when it comes. And by the time you reach there, the material would have changed. Next year, 26, there is going to be massive updates in the 2 new specializations. So private wealth and private markets are going to go through a bit of a change. So they are, because the readings that have been added now are not that difficult. Portfolio management is far more tougher than those 2. So they are definitely going to up that content. Because that's the feedback that we have given them. कि ये इतना आसान है, ये इतना मुश्किल है, आपने ये क्या किया है? So we gave them the feedback because I read through all 3. And a lot of the other trainers have read 3 and we have given them the feedback कि ये मुश्किल है और ये दोनों आसान आए हैं. तो आपने content को थोड़ा balance out करना है.
any suggestion to increase the concentration?
वो सब किया है. अब CFA इंस्टीट्यूट की मर्जी है. 2026 का कंटेंट तो उन्होंने डिसाइड कर लिया है.
नहीं सर, not for level 3 है.
हाँ.
मैं पूछ रहा हूँ concentration increase करने के लिए कोई
Concentration. Set short term targets. 25 to 30 minutes के targets. कि इतनी देर में फोन नहीं देखना है. इतनी देर के लिए सब कुछ साइलेंट. 25-30 minutes. So there is a technique called as the timer technique. उसको कहते हैं Pomodoro technique. The technique is where you set a timer and set 30 minutes, no distractions. 30 minutes, full concentration. We'll do it. I'll take a 5-minute break, come back and do it again, 30 minutes. तो 30 minutes के breaks लेके 30 minutes के concentration के points में.
Actually, प्रॉब्लम है 5 मिनट का ब्रेक बहुत लंबा हो जाता है.
पता नहीं चलता कि 5 minutes में तो मिनट उसका भी ब्रेक, उसका भी टाइमर लगाइए, है ना? तो डू दैट. या ब्रेक मत लीजिए और ब्रेक वहीं बैठे हुए लीजिए. ब्रेक का मतलब ये नहीं कि घूम चले गए आगे.
What I do is कि like मान लो एक चैप्टर उसके अंदर 4 टॉपिक्स हैं, तो मान लो एक टॉपिक करना चाहिए जितनी देर में, फिर उसके बाद ब्रेक, फिर नेक्स्ट टॉपिक, फिर उसके बाद ब्रेक. ऐसे
वो भी ठीक है. डू व्हाट वर्क्स. सबका तरीका अलग है. मेरा तरीका क्या था, मैं खड़े होकर पढ़ाई करता था. आई यूज्ड टू स्टैंड एंड स्टडी.
एथिक्स तो मैंने भी ऐसे ही किया.
क्योंकि आप खड़े होके सो नहीं सकते. आप बेड पे आपने किताब खोली, 15 मिनट तो बहुत दूर की बात है. 5 मिनट में पोस्चर चेंज होते 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 वो विदिन 5 minutes यू आर गॉन, राइट? तो you have to know what you don't have to do. So use your techniques and find the time of the day when your productivity is the highest. For me it used to be late nights. Zero disturbance. For me it used to work. And wake up early. So I used to wake up like at 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock and then study till 7 o'clock. So find the time which works the best for you. Yes.
So I go through this some Reddit posts and they say that level 2 is way tougher than level 3. But I'm always surprised, how can they say that? I mean, level 3 is actually the elimination of the people who come from level 2 and from level 1.
Does it matter? Does this entire thing make a difference for your prep? Will you do something differently at level 2 than at level right now? Non-controllable. Can't do anything about it. Yes? So leave it, forget it. Yes, it may be the hardest. It maybe it's not. What can you do about it? Can you change the arena? You can't. So let it be. Right? Do what you can. Finished. होगा तो है, नहीं होगा तो नहीं है. ठीक है? मैं आपको बताऊं मैंने कैसे पढ़ाई करी लेवल 2-1 के लिए. So लेवल 1 की पढ़ाई मैंने स्टार्ट करी थी सितंबर 15 को. दिसंबर में एग्जाम था. 13 सितंबर को तो मैंने रजिस्टर किया था एग्जाम के लिए. दिसंबर फर्स्ट वीक में एग्जाम था. 2.5 महीने पढ़ाई की थी. जॉब थी 2.5 महीने. ठीक है. रिजल्ट आया, क्लियर हुआ. रिजल्ट जनवरी में आता है. फरवरी में किताबें आई. फरवरी एंड तक स्टार्ट किया होगा. मार्च, अप्रैल, मई 3 महीने पढ़ाई की. जून फर्स्ट वीक में एग्जाम होता है. ठीक है. विद जॉब. लेवल 2 का रिजल्ट आया. अगले साल लेवल 3 का एग्जाम था. अगले साल जून में. सोचा था जल्दी से पढ़ाई शुरू करेंगे. आई डिडंट टच माय बुक्स टिल मार्च एंड ऑफ द जून. सो अप्रैल में दैट्स हाउ आई डिड.
You cleared all the levels in 3 months.
तो 2.5-3 महीने का प्रेप चाहिए होता है. मैं आपको 6 महीने बता रहा हूं. 2.5-3 महीने का आपने लेवल 1 के लिए कितनी देर पढ़ाई की थी कंसिस्टेंटली?
मैं तो बहुत ज्यादा देता.
Yes. Most people where they dedicatedly study is 3 months. Right? वो 3 महीने जो डेडिकेशन, उसके पहले 3 महीने तो स्टार्ट ऐसे हो रहा होता है. बाद में खिंचती ना गाड़ी. अब ये लास्ट पार्ट आप भूल जाना जो मैंने बताया आपको. Don't remember this part.
आपकी बैकग्राउंड कुछ नहीं होगी ना फाइनेंस
हाँ. I had done my masters in finance. I was working as an equity research analyst, so it was easier in that regard. तो ये सारा कंटेंट पहले किया हुआ था. तो it was not alien to me. मतलब मैंने पोर्टफोलियो मैनेजमेंट, डेरिवेटिव्स, फिक्स्ड इनकम पहले पढ़े हुए थे चीजें. So they weren't very new to me that कि कुछ भी नहीं आता. So when I read, थोड़ा सा टाइम लगा, but it was something that was familiar. It was on the job that I was already doing things. So it is not like कि नहीं आता है.
So it's better कि हम ऐसा job ले जिसमें हमें थोड़ी familiarity हो.
That is why not. तो for example मैंने equity में FCFF के formulas पढ़े, मैंने कहा ये तो मैं close करता हूँ, मैं तो DCF में models बना रहा हूँ, ये तो on the job पता ही है. So मतलब चीजें जो आती थी, then that was not difficult, है ना? So अगर आप DCF models बना रहे हो, रोज वही formula Excel में लगा रहे हो, तो आपको पता क्या यही करना है. तो इसलिए वो बार बार करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ी. That was it.
So what made you start Bengaluru to be in the job? And
वो तो by chance था यार. That just happened by chance. It was not something very well planned. Anyway, more questions before we start? Anything else? Any questions online, guys? Anything that you have, you can just type out your query or unmute yourself and ask.
Sir, one thing I noticed was in November attempt, so many people have scored less on quads.
How do you know?
And I asked people from the village.
Sample set?
Few people respond.
Sample size issue.
And I personally felt that my quad was my greatest scoring subject, but then I scored low in that.
I also scored lowest.
Doesn't matter. Pass now. Done. That's what matters. I'll tell you the other side of the story. So, a few years down of my teaching the CFA content, one student asked me once, he says, how did you score? I said, I don't remember. So I wrote an email to the CFA Institute. I said, can I get my score sheet? They said, you have deleted it. We don't keep it. I'm like, okay, if you delete it, then how do I care? Correct. So they don't keep it even after a year. So point is that if they don't care, why should I? I'm like, pass is pass, finished. Like, नहीं ऐसा नहीं है, but they say that the idea was that you don't have to keep and find out how. It is, you pass is pass, finished. They don't differentiate. Anything else? Okay, so on that note, we have covered and helped you get the basics of the grounding for your level 2 prep, right? The plan is that today is the 19th of April and we are planning to complete your entire course in approximately around 3 months. So 19th of May, 19th of June and 19th of July. So approximately end of July, let's target that. Exact schedule, I will put it on your groups. I will send it on your WhatsApp of every day what we plan to cover. I'm not going to pace up. I'm rather going to go slow. If you want me to pace up, you tell me, but I'll go as slow as you want me to. And I would prefer that if you bring me questions to practice also. I will try and practice your questions in the class, but if you have queries coming in, you bring those and we can discuss and solve those questions alongside. Okay? All the classes of the previous batch that we have just done has already been recorded and put up online. Content is exactly the same. 2025 material, updated videos are already available on your dashboard. So you will have access to all the content and the videos up front. What that does is that you will get the updated videos before even the class happens. So for example, for the next weekend, you can actually watch the video of the class before coming in. I know a lot of people don't do that, but trust me, when you do that, your productivity in the class goes up 2x. You're able to understand things here far better and recallability gets better. So if you can watch the video of the class before coming in, that is amazing. Okay? We usually record the first class that we won't be recording the subsequent classes. Okay? So today's recording I will share with you on your WhatsApp, but we'll have the single recording available of the previous batch and we'll make that available to all of you. Okay?